If your child is struggling at school and you keep hearing words like special education, IEP, 504, accommodations, services, or behavior plans, and you aren't even sure where to begin, this episode is for you. Today, I'm talking with Karen Mayer Cunningham, the special education boss, about how parents can begin to understand the special education process without feeling overwhelmed or intimidated. If you've ever wondered whether your child needs more support at school, what the difference between a 504 and an IEP is, or how to begin advocating without feeling like you have to fight the whole system, you're going to want to listen in. Ever feel like one meltdown turns your day upside down? Are you walking on eggshells with emotions and challenging behaviors? Need peace in your home? You're in the right place. I'm Jami, mom of 7, professional counselor and parent coach. I've learned how to turn chaos into calm, stop meltdowns, and enjoy time as a family. If you're looking for effective tools, practical ways to connect with your uniquely wired child, and parenting tools that align with faith and family values, you've found it. So reheat that coffee, start that laundry fluffing again, and let's jump in. Hello, today we are starting a 2-part conversation with Karen Mayer Cunningham, also known as the Special Education Boss. What a title. I love that. Karen has been advocating on behalf of children for over 25 years. Her passion is training, educating, and empowering everyone who sits at the 504 and IEP table so that children can have successful outcomes at school. Her advocacy journey began as she fought to get the needed services for her own child, but along the way, she found a calling to educate, equip, and train families and educators to successfully navigate the SPED system. In this first episode, we're going to talk about where parents begin. What do you need to understand? How do you know if your child may need a 504 or an IEP? And what do you do when you feel intimidated, confused, or unsure of what to even ask? Karen, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. I'd love for you to start with your story and maybe tell us, how did advocating for your own child lead you into the work that you do now?
Sure. So I haven't really found anybody that just accidentally ends up in special education. They've had an experience, an encounter, a loved one. And so my first child was born, was perfect, like everybody expected him to be, no problems. And then when he's about 18 months old, we took him to the pediatrician to get his 18-month shots. And something happened that day, and I lost my child. And he came home and literally would stand in the hall and bang the back of his head into the sheetrock until there was a hole in it. And so as a mom and also a professional stand-up comic, I'm thinking, this isn't good, right? And so I went to all the smart people, other people that have had children, like my relatives. Don't ever ask your relatives. He's fine. Your Uncle Bobby did that. I'm like, Uncle Bobby's in prison, but he's doing fine now, right? And so a first-time mom, and, what do people say? Because they mean well. They'll grow out of it. It's a maturity issue. But I knew in my gut this was not a maturity issue. And so that's how we started this process. And when he was about 2.5 years old, I had him assessed. And the very unlovely, unwarm, unfriendly clinician said, well, he has classic autism. He has 15 of the 16 markers. He'll never play with other children. He won't probably finish high school. You'll have to put him in a home. Do you have any questions? I'm like, wow, is this the part where we hug? He said, do you want a copy of this report? And I snatched it out of her hand. I hope it gave her a paper cut. And I got in the car just completely defeated. And I thought, if between me and Oprah and God, we'll fix this. Like, I am not going to let this be the call on his life. It's completely unacceptable. And it just started me on a journey, like most moms do and families do, to find answers and information to serve my child in this position. And so from that, I got that evaluation. And in Texas, one of my clients said, in Texas, if you're speech delayed, you can start school at 3. And I thought, fantastic. That's what we'll do. We get them started in school. You take your kids to school and they fix things. That's what teachers do. They get out their fairy dust and your kids are all fine. And I bought him that Lion King backpack, the original one, and sent him across the street. And I was like, this is going to be great. And we had a meeting and there were all these people and all this paperwork, and they were all talking in hieroglyphics like a BIP and a PCS and an ESY and a IHP. And do you have any questions? I'm like, if he eats something in the room, are you going to kick him out of school? And he goes, no. I said, okay, we'll sign. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like not speaking English. So I thought, this is great. He could get in trouble and not be expelled. This is great. And so about a month into starting PPCD, Preschool Programs for Children with Disabilities, is now called ECSE, the teacher called Child Protective Services on us because James had severe pica and he would sit and rock for hours. And so I was at my salon where I'd planned to be for the rest of my life, talking about people so we could put them on the prayer list. And my husband called me and he said, I'm not kidding, which is what you say to a comedian on the phone. But there's a person here from Child Protective Services and she wants to ask you some questions. Is now a good time?
Like there is a good time?
Yeah, there's a good time. And so she was very also unpleasant and not warm and friendly. She goes, does he rock for hours? Yes. Did he lose all of his language? Yes. Does he bang his head? Yes. Does he chew his finger till they bleed? Yes. Does he eat the bark off a tree? Yes. What are you doing to fix it? I said, we're sending him across the street to school. Well, that's what your husband said. Okay. And she goes, well, I'm going to leave a brochure for you if we have to take him into custody. What? And so I thought the people that are supposed to be helping me have now put me at odds with them. So that started my journey. And then there was no, the investigation, there's nothing, nothing was found. And a few months later, the same person from CPS calls us and she said, I'm so sorry. She goes, but obviously somebody's a little trigger happy. And every time they call, we have to respond. And the next morning I might've gotten up and fixed an adult drink in my coffee cup and decided to drive down to the Child Protective Service office. Now, none of y'all do any of this stuff because I was not sane. And that's how you know you're a parent. And so I went down there and I was like, I want to see my case manager. And the guy is like, okay. So we go up, he, rides in the elevator with me because I'm a lunatic. And we walk down the hall and I'm pulling the box, and every mom listening knows about the box, right? The box has all of his paperwork from all the people that say all the things that he cannot do and will not do. And she opens her door and she might've been 22 years old in like 2 weeks. And like, she just graduated college. And I go, do you know anything about autism? She goes, yeah, I think when I was a sophomore, we had a seminar. I was like, are you my leader? But she was the first person that resourced me. She gave me a card for MHMR of Travis County, a mental retardation. And it started me on this path. And it's so sad that the first person that gave me a real resource was a child protective service worker. And so, teachers weren't allowed to tell parents stuff. Teachers weren't allowed to, it's all a big secret, right? And here we sit 30 years later and it's still a secret, right? And so it's unbelievable if you haven't walked in this experience. You would think that, Karen's making that up, Jamie's making that up. And that's the process in the 90s. And it's the process now, which is why we serve and train everyone that sits at the table.
Yes. Oh, I'm so grateful that you do. Tell me this. I mean, it sounds like your journey kind of led you to this, but was there that defining moment when you realized parents need help understanding this system?
Yeah. Well, and it's a system, right? So first of all, it is usually the largest employer where you live is the school system. And it was a system when I went in it, and it's a system now. I think the biggest problem is that parents have this very unholy alliance with school districts. They always have. And, well, if Coach Mack said it, or, Miss Huffman, the biology, like it's just gospel, right? Whereas nowhere else in our life, we would go, oh, well, we'll get a second opinion. We don't have another elementary school, right? And so that breeds for people that are not equipped to do their job, that breeds like little Napoleons at school, right? And so, what's important is that we know that these services are important and we get them when we start. But you have to understand that it is a process, and the process is a fail to intervene process. We need the child to fail before we'll intervene. Now, that's not how it's set up under IDEA. IDEA under Child Find, originally we said zero reject, was we assumed that when a parent came in and said that they suspected a disability, the school would just go, "Thank you for coming. So glad to see you, Miss Cunningham. We were waiting for you. Here's a basket of puppies and some warm cookies and a chilled glass of milk," right? That is not what happens. And so there is a process in place to dismiss you, derail meetings, and really get you to kind of go away. And trust us, we're the professionals at the school, will take care of it. And so I understand, like, not over evaluating, but that's not what's going on. We're telling parents that everything's fine. And what we're losing every day is time. And the worst thing you can do is wait. And I say that an educational intervention is just as important as a medical intervention. If you went to the hospital and your child had a fever for 3 days and they said, "Listen, Jamie, we have a lot of kids that come in. It's the summer. Kids get hot. Just come back and then go to another hospital," right? Your child's educational intervention cannot be delayed. And they need those services and support so that they can be successful for the next 80 years after they graduate high school.
Yeah, so true. So true. And I think I ran into that same thing where I trusted everybody at the school. It was a small town. We knew everybody. And you walk into those meetings and they hand you your safeguards packet. And so you're sure that probably what you should know or need to know or want to know is probably in there somewhere. So you don't know if you should ask and look stupid or just not ask at all. I mean, it really is kind of a tough journey, but I remember sitting through my very first IEP meeting and thinking, I am a mom that has been, in the past, a professional counselor, now turned parenting coach. I have a master's degree, and I feel like I've done a boatload of research and I still feel lost. And if I feel this lost, there has to be other people that feel like they're drowning too. And that is such a tough feeling when you see the need, but you don't quite know what to do about it. And I love that you've taken action on that. Tell me this, what is the first step you wish more parents knew that they could take?
That having your child tested for special education and related services are your legal right. But I always say the great thing about rights is they're only your right if two things exist. One, you know what they are, and two, you invoke them. And so this is a non-negotiable. You're not going to pat me on the head because that would mess up my hairdo. I'm not going away because there's nothing worse than getting a parent who has parent guilt, who was told no years ago. So the very first thing that you must do is you must stick the landing and get the testing. And we don't ask for testing at church. We don't ask for testing at the car pickup line. We don't ask for testing at the pumpkin patch. This is a legal setting. In writing with great clarity, you need to ask for testing. And I will tell you how to do that right now. It's quite simple. Dear staff, this is my formal request for my child, Billy Smith, to have special education testing, period. Characteristics of suspected disabilities are behavior, emotion, acquisition of learning, attention, etc., period. We look forward to coming in and signing notice and consent, period, and hit send. You don't have to say, "I'm so glad that we're doing good. I'm glad we're going to state in basketball." This is a business meeting, and it's the business of educating your child. And you have to be completely sober and serious about it. You don't have to bring a basket of, snacks for everybody. This is not, a women's retreat. This is a legal setting so that your child can be a successful adult.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. And I like that you said in writing, because that was something I learned the hard way. We were making a lot of verbal agreements, but things weren't happening. And I didn't realize that putting things in writing starts a different time clock. And so I like that you mentioned that it's in writing. Can you explain the difference between something we hear a lot about, the 504 plan and an IEP, in simple parent-friendly language? And are there certain situations where maybe one is more appropriate than the other?
So, I'm pretty polarizing, but I'm committed to it. So, a 504 is good for folding in four things, and you can put it under a Coke can at a family reunion. So, a 504 is the 1973 Rehabilitation Act. It was a civil rights act for individuals with disabilities, and it just simply says that an individual with an identified disability cannot be denied their known and needed accommodations. It was never meant to be used in this broad sweep in schools, right? In schools, we do two things. We teach and we measure. There's no teaching in a 504. There's no measuring. The laws around 504 are tiny. The 504 statute is a paragraph. And so probably in 30 years, I've had 3 kids that needed a 504, and I do about 500 IEP meetings a year. So it would be very rare. So if your child needs teaching or coaching, that's what special ed is, right? Both of my boys are professional athletes, and one ran at the collegiate level. My oldest son is a professional bowler on the PBA Southwest Regional Tour. He'll be paying for my plastic surgery. So next time I Jami, tell me how good it looks.
Awesome.
Both of them were very good at their sport. So we got coaches. Nobody would go, why are you getting a coach? And that's what special ed is. It is just something more than the general ed teacher can solely do by herself. And so it's not a scarlet letter. You walked around the mall this weekend. Did you see anybody with a sign that says I was in special ed? No. And so we have to stop shaming parents and manipulating parents. I've been given the gift of persuasion, and almost all teachers do. And we've got to be very careful that even with a good heart, that we're not manipulating parents' choices. We need to give them the information, just like a doctor or nurse would. Give them the information and let the parent make the right decision for their family. So an IEP is an individualized education program. So it's a program set up to identify your child's unique circumstances, and we've made a program to enable them to progress appropriate in light of those circumstances.
Yeah. Oh, very good. I like that distinction. And I like to hear you talk about them just clearly, because it can be so confusing when you think there's 2 really good options. And I like the way that you're presenting that.
And listen, if somebody sucks air through their teeth at your meeting, you're being manipulated, right? If somebody goes,
good measure.
I'm like, are you okay? I just don't know why you'd want them with those kids. Oh, good news. Unless their name is Spock, they're all the same kids. We just have the human kids. I know, but do you want them around those kids? There aren't those kids, right? There's not special ed kids and general ed kids. Every child is a general ed student. Some students require special ed services.
Yeah, that's great. I like the way that you put that. I know a lot of parents here, your child is doing fine because their child may not be failing academically. But maybe as a parent, you're seeing anxiety, meltdowns, maybe even meltdowns after school if they can get through the day. The exhaustion, the shutdowns, maybe behavior struggles or emotional dysregulation at home. What should parents understand about that? And can a child still need support even if their grades look okay?
Absolutely. It's a great question. So good news, IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, which is 50 years old. It was signed into law begrudgingly by Gerald Ford as he muffled under his breath 50 years ago. So, what's important to know is that the law doesn't say anything about an academic need. The law says, is there an educational need? So anything that occurs during the school day, I could provide you additional education around that. So eating, dressing, hygiene, emotions, social, functional, speaking, hearing, ambulating, reading, writing, math, science, and social studies. Are just part of it. I have tons of kiddos that are on an IEP that have ADHD or an emotional difference or autism. They don't have a single academic goal, right? You making good grades doesn't mean that you don't have an educational need. So the need is showing up during the instructional day, and the regular teacher is not sufficiently being able to address that. So don't get into that hamster wheel if they have good grades. And let me just say real quick about the grades. Are y'all listening? They're not true. They're not true. I'm 115 years old. The grades in the 70s and the 80s, those were our grade. Those were our grades. Everybody in America now is on the AB honor roll. I know I'm going to burst your bubble. In fact, if your child's a valedictorian, I don't even know if that's true. The grades that we give now are so subjective, right? Because teachers are pressured to pass kiddos. So when I look at data, the last data point I'm looking at is grades, but really digging into what does it look like when I record him and it reads? What does it look like when I give him a math sheet? What does it look like when I ask him to still himself and write on a blank piece of paper? Watching those sorts of things and analyzing that will give you much better data than good grades.
Yeah, so true. Well, I know many parents listening today are raising children with ADHD, maybe DMDD, autism, anxiety, sensory needs. Maybe there's no diagnosis, but just emotional dysregulation and challenging behaviors. When these needs show up at school, what might they look like beneath the surface? And how can parents begin to tell when a behavior is really pointing to an unmet support need?
Yeah, well, the good thing is behavior is communication, right? It always has been and always will be. I remember I was in an IEP meeting and I had a little boy I was serving. He had cerebral palsy and he was biting people. And they were just telling me how terrible that was. I said, I think we should bring biting back. It's pretty clear, right? They want you to stop. And so all of us have behaviors, right? And so the question is the behavior impeding their learning and or the learning of others, right? And so, it's probably the hardest thing to get parents on board with or schools. There's a category called an emotional disturbance. And that just means that your child's emotions are not calibrated right now. They're not in the normed and average range. And that's okay. If you were out somewhere and your girlfriend had a prescription for something in her purse for anxiety, you wouldn't go, this is my friend. She has a disability, right? But because of those characteristics, she's getting a medical protocol. We wouldn't think anything about that. So we should look at it for children the same way. Children's emotions come on a continuum. Their language is on a continuum. Their intellect is on a continuum, and that's okay. And so to ignore it is not going to change it. It's not a maturation issue. They'll get taller. And so one of the good things out of the pandemic was that we got to see kiddos that had emotional needs that have been covered up by I do what the teacher tells me. I have good grades. I follow expectations. Yeah, but did you know that she's crying during English class? Did you know she was crying? I did notice that. That's not normal that we're crying at school, right? And so when there is an emotional disability, those three areas, right? ADHD, autism, or emotional disability, parents feel like it's their fault. Or somebody goes, well, Jami, don't they have pills for that? You don't want to know what I say. I'm like, do you have pills for you? Do you have a pill? So there's great protocols, right? There's great spiritual protocols, physical protocols, behavioral protocols, all sorts of things that can change outcomes. Here's what you need to remember about special education. We have one job in special education, just one. To teach, that's it. We're not trying to get rid of it. We're trying to teach them strategies and skills so they can self-manage it, right? Whether it's a reading protocol or strategies, or I learn to take a break or identify what the need is. Just like somebody taught me algebra, I think they did. We can teach these skills to kids.
Yeah. Oh, that's so true. Well, and this is why I feel like support is so important, because the things that you're sharing are things that we all need to hear, but we don't always know it. We don't even know what questions to ask. So before we continue, I want to pause for just a minute, because this conversation proves our point that support matters so much to parents, and especially moms, who a lot of times are the ones that are doing a lot of this legwork. When you're raising a child with ADHD, DMDD, emotional dysregulation, or any of those other challenging behaviors or diagnoses, you're often learning a whole new system while also trying to parent through those hard moments at home. You're trying to understand your child, support their nervous system, communicate with school, advocate for what they need, and still keep things moving in the day. And that's a lot for a parent to carry alone. And that's one of the reasons that I created our upcoming Mom's Retreat, titled "It Is Well, Finding Your Calm in the Chaos." And this retreat is for parents raising emotionally intense, uniquely wired, neurodivergent, or struggling kiddos. It's a place to just step away, be encouraged, connect with other moms who understand, learn some practical tools, and hopefully return home with a little more calm, clarity, and hope for your journey. The retreat is August 27th through the 31st in Loveland, Colorado. And we're keeping it intentionally small and personal because I want moms to feel seen, heard, and understood, not lost in a crowd. Lodging, meals, snacks, drinks, activities, outings, and even some really special care elements are included in your registration fee. So we still have a few spots available. Be sure to visit calmconnectionparent.com/retreat 2026. Now, I want to continue with Karen because I want to talk about why so many parents feel stressed, overwhelmed, and maybe even intimidated when it comes to that special education journey. Why do you think so many parents feel intimidated when they walk into that IEP meeting?
Well, Congress identified that it's just the numbers, right? There's at minimum 4 school-based members, and like you said, usually it's a mom. You are outnumbered. There's not equity. And what you have to remember, there's a lot going on at a school, right? You're walking in and you're asking for support for your child, and that's going to require what from the school? Hands and funds. And all the money at ABC School was already spent July 1st. It was already spent, right? And so if there's another way that we can address your needs with your child that doesn't cost us money, that's going to be their first avenue. And that's just the truth. That's just the truth. And so it is intimidating. You're going to somebody else's place of work, right? I always say that, unfriendly IEP meetings are like, oh, Jami, you guys come over. We're having a big dinner. Yeah, you can get your plate and then go sit in your car, right? I walk into an IEP meeting and everybody stops talking. It's probably because of my beauty. They're probably just overwhelmed by that. It's not welcoming. When I train school districts, and I said, try being nice. Try being nice. Try getting that look off of your face. Stop looking at your watch. This is somebody's child. This is their seed. There's nothing more important than that. And so I think sometimes as an advocate or even school-based members, we get into, we're rolling, we're going. We're doing 2 and 3 IEP meetings a day, and we're just running through it. This is somebody's child. This is somebody's whole world. And if they could have fixed it, they would have. So I find parents with kids with disabilities often walk around with a lot of shame. First of all, moms, right? Because, heaven forbid that everybody after your child has conditions, factors, and behaviors. They don't go, so what happened during your pregnancy? I was pregnant. I know, but is there anything else that happened?
It's got to be something you ate, right?
Yeah. How many Diet Cokes did you have? All of them? I don't, right? They never say to the father, what happened during your wife's pregnancy? And it's just this ongoing shame, right? And then I see a lot of shame with fathers, and that is just the truth. They don't want it to be true. They say, well, he's lazy. He's not paying attention. I've already told him that. If you have a neurological difference, you have a neurological difference. So you can tell him over and over again, but the way that you're doing it is not Velcro and acquisition of learning, right? And so many times I've called parents out in the hall and go, get out here. And I'll say, stop it. Stop speaking that over your child. We're going to speak the promise and address the problem. But we're not going to say he's lazy. He's not paying attention. Attention is free. He doesn't pay it. Or he's not motivated. He's not motivated. Well, maybe we should have the marching band come in or pep rally. So disability is not a motivation issue. So let's stop saying that to parents. And so you are overwhelmed in that setting because you're not trained to do that. You didn't go to college to have a disabled child and then hope you have it's not how it works, right? Even Jami and I both know there was this book, What to Expect When Expecting. That book did not help us. That did not help us at all, right? There's no book.
It does not go by the book.
Yeah. What to expect when you have a child with a disability. You know why? Because they're all different, right? If Jami and I both had daughters that played tennis, they would be getting light coaching and light teams. And every child with a disability, even if it has the same name, is a completely different journey. The characteristics of that and the acuity of it look different in each child's life. 88% of parents who have a child with a disability get divorced. 88%. That's staggering. Yeah. It's absolutely the last thing that child needs. But it's a reality. And so, I was trying to get through Thursday. I was just trying to hope that we can wrap this up in time so I can go get another box of white Zinfandel to put into my Sonic 44 cup because, I'm Baptist and that's a vegetable, right? So I was just trying to function. And the truth is, it's, I always say that special ed is like the emergency room, but you never get to leave. I say that it's often like a death with no funeral. right? We didn't sit down with mom and dad and let them cry about a child that's not going to do this, a child that won't be a doctor like you are. They could work at the hospital, but they're not going to be doctors. And so I let parents have that opportunity to mourn the child that they thought that they had. And then when we're done, we're going to get up and we're going to walk this through, and we're going to make a difference in his life by giving him specially designed instruction that makes him have gainful employment, independent living, and further education.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love the way you say that. What would you say to the parent who is afraid of being labeled as difficult or maybe pushy or being that parent?
That's biblical. The Bible says the violent take it by force. Yeah. I paid cash to give birth. These are my children. They're my tax write-off. I want to be difficult. That your child, we're all advocates. That child is completely dependent on you to take care of his educational journey. And I always say it's such an honor that I get to walk along kids' educational healing. And that's what I get to do. You should be difficult. If your child was trying to be the captain of the basketball team to go on to college, you would be difficult getting him on that position. So I think if you're a parent, you have to be difficult. And it's just a requirement. Squeaky wheel will get the oil. But that is your child's right to have a free and appropriate public education. And I would rather be the parent that was difficult than the parent that just smiled and gave the teacher a gift card and then, told my son, I don't know why you're aren't trying hard enough.
Yeah, no, that's true. And I think for some of us, it really takes us out of our comfort zone because maybe our personalities just really don't like that conflict. We really care more about everybody being comfortable. And I know for me, I did worry a lot about being that pushy parent until I could kind of reframe in my own brain. I'm an informed parent advocating for my child in a way they deserve to be advocated for. And when I thought of it that way, it took the pressure off of I'm not being something, I'm just filling a role that I was called to fill. And I'm going to fill it to the best of my ability. And I have had both good IEP meeting experiences and some difficult IEP experiences. But I can tell you this, I wish that you had been at all of them because something tells me you bring the fun, Karen.
I put the fun in dysfunctional and an IEP.
Just fun all the way around. Well, thank you so much for helping parents understand today about where to begin the process. And I think so many families feel overwhelmed by the language, the meetings, the process, the conversation. And it reminds us that parents don't have to know everything to just take your next best step. If you're listening today and you're thinking, I need to learn more, make sure you come back for part 2 because Karen and I are going to continue this conversation. But I also want to bring your attention to that really cool book behind Karen and let her tell us where you can connect with her.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We are on all the platforms. So you can find me at Special Education Academy, Special Education Boss. You can get the book, The Epic IEP, at theepic.com or wherever books are sold. It is a 7-part framework that literally you could take a blank piece of paper and write an IEP. And at the end of every chapter, it has a checklist for parents, a checklist for educators, a checklist for advocates, because there's just one side of the table, and that's the side of the student.
That's great. And we all are on the same team. And I think sometimes that does get lost. And sometimes we have to be the reminder of that. Hey, we're all working for the same thing here. Well, I know in our next episode, we are going to talk about how to advocate at the IEP table, what to do when you feel dismissed, what to ask, what to document, and how to keep the focus on your child's needs. Until then, remember this, you do not have to be an expert to be an advocate. You just have to be willing to learn, ask questions, and take the next best step for your child. That's it for today. If you enjoyed today's episode, would you take a quick minute to follow and share it with a friend who's looking for tools to parent those big emotions? And don't forget to join the Calm Connection Parenting Facebook group. This is where I can connect with you and offer support as you walk this journey. All right, I'll let you decide whether to fluff or fold that laundry now. But I'll meet you back here next week. Until then, keep calm and parent on.